Come in and then we can close the door so we don't hear too much noise from outside. I want to introduce today's panel and the host of this panel, Said, who's the Senior Director of Product Management for Qualcomm. So Said, I might hand it over to you and you can get the conversation started here with everyone. Give them a round of applause. All right.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. That's much better. Again, my name is Said. I'm part of Qualcomm XR team, and very excited to be here with you guys, but with my friends here, and looking for to ignite some very interesting discussions. But before we get into that, I would like just to give a chance to these experts here to introduce themselves. Then we can get started, and please buckle up because it's going to be a very exciting discussion.
All right. Sure. All right. Thank you, Said. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is E. I'm from Oppo. Oppo, as a company, we have been exploring XR for many years. We have developed 4 generations of different form factors: AR glasses, all-in-one glasses, smart glasses, and today, this morning, we announced our MR glass. So we have done almost everything in XR. It's really exciting, and really excited to be here with Said and our co-panelist.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Brian Hamilton. Been in the space for a long time. See so many amazing faces from AWE every year, so I'm honored to see a lot of you again. Been in space for many, many years. Was a founder of the RealWear company. Came over to a company called DigiLens, which we're going to unveil and show our new product called Argo tomorrow. We are a company that makes waveguides. We manufacture waveguides, but we also are now building the next generation of AR glass. Love to tell you about how that's different from some of the news that's about to come out. We're really excited for all the news that's about to come out as well. So been in the space for a long time and super honored to be here, and probably can tell you what to not do in the space as much as what to do, so we can learn from each other that way.
Hey, Brian. Thank you very much. Thanks, Said. Vishal Shah. I'm the General Manager of AR, VR, and Metaverse at Lenovo. Lenovo is one of the largest PC and data center companies in the world, but we're making a huge investment in the AR, VR space for almost the last 6 years. We're on to our 3rd generation of devices now, and one of the few companies that has commercial products in both AR, VR, and a complete end-to-end solution for enterprises. And we've been working closely with Qualcomm on their Snapdragon Spaces program, and have been leading the space there as well with them.
Thank you, guys. So just to get into it, because unfortunately we have only about 20 minutes, I'm hoping maybe if you can spare a couple of minutes if there is a question from the audience. But I want to really take advantage of having this caliber here and ask them some questions that maybe are not necessarily what we have a theme, because I'm sure you're here because you're, I think, drinking from the Kool-Aid, right? Everybody's living in it, right? So the first one, how many of you heard, the metaverse is dead or is dying? Have you heard about it? Oh, that's great, by the way. Not many people, but I can tell you this, at least from my experience. Everywhere I go, it's like, is this really happening? Is this really dying now? Well, it was great. 2020, 2021, COVID, it was great, but now we don't see how this is really moving forward. There is another one. What is really the real killer use case? Well, if I talk to a developer, there isn't really no good device out there. If I talk to the device guys, well, I don't have a good content to provide. So we stuck in this position maybe of, some say it as a chicken and egg, some say it is a normal thing, but I want to ask you guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we need to start with something, right? I think we need to start with a common software platform like the Spaces. I think that's a really good start. Then we can have multiple devices that can support the Spaces. Then the developers, they feel comfortable, like they don't need to deal with fragmented like ecosystem. They have to develop for different APIs, different SDKs. That's only one SDK, one API. They develop that, and then these applications can be deployed on different devices. I think that's where the whole industry should be moving.
Yeah, and since I'm up here on the panel with Qualcomm, I got to say everything begins at the chip level, right? Right, Said? The bottom line is that what Spaces is really exciting, we're excited about with Spaces, which, by the way, this is not a commercial for Qualcomm, but we're super excited about standardization in the program. The reason why you hear about, hey, there's no device companies out there that can really cut the mustard to be a successful device company in enterprise, or you hear there's no content. We go in this circular motion because we're not thinking the right way of deployment. System integrators also have a really important, big ones, small ones, have a really important programs that they need to roll out to help this industry. So what we really need to do is think about how do we skew and bring a geographical approach to what we're doing, because business in Korea is different than business in the United States, which is different than Mexico. So we really want to think about a hyper-localized approach with solutions that are tailored to the industry we're servicing. And like everything, reference cases. Reference cases mean the world. So with Spaces, we finally have an opportunity for an all-in-one platform that can really change the game for standardization. So no matter if you're an ISV, a system integrator, a solution partner, channel, you now have an opportunity to participate in that standardization and actually monetize that standardization. So you need monetization, and you need standard SKUs, and a global approach to the XR industry. And I can go deeper into that, but I want to give my friend Vishal a chance to comment.
Yeah, and just to add to that, to us and in general, it's all about the outcomes that you're delivering to your end customers and the end users, right? So in some ways, the correction in the metaverse hype has only helped us to focus more on these realistic outcomes, realistic solutions, whether it's in the enterprise or the consumer area, and create ROI solutions for our customers. So there was this whole lot of buzz and frothiness that was going around crypto, and then blockchain, and then metaverse, and now you're seeing that in AI as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's the outcomes and how you're creating a complete ecosystem that allows you to deliver on those outcomes so you can scale. And I think that's where Brian talked about the Spaces ecosystem as well, and the developer programs that have been a huge boost in the arm for this community.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think as we're looking into all these things that are happening, that we believers, again, we're drinking from the Kool-Aid. It's difficult for us not to see the opportunity because it's really there. But there are certainly challenges. It's not all a paved ride where we just walk in and make it there. What are some of the challenges that you guys see, particularly that I think you guys working across the 4 quadrants, ER, VR, enterprise, consumer, and I know the challenges across those quadrants are very different, right? So in your personal experience, what are some of those challenges that you see today, and what are you doing today? Because that's the theme, underline that today. What are you guys doing to address that?
Yeah, I'll start with the enterprise space. And being a provider of both AR and VR solutions, I think one of the biggest things that we see, one of the biggest challenges when we talk to our Fortune 500 customers is that there's a lack of end-to-end solutions in the industry. There are a lot of people who will buy hardware, throw it over the wall, they'll buy the software from someone else, and then you have to come and work with the system integrator to try to bring everything together. So that's why a lot of these things get stuck in the perpetual POC phase, right? The POC graveyard, as we call it. So what we've done at Lenovo, we have our Think Reality platform, which has 3 key components. It's the complete software end-to-end cloud solution. It's a best-in-class hardware that's made specifically for the enterprise. And third, a complete set of ISV ecosystem and service integration ecosystem that we can package together as a service to our customers. So this end-to-end service, I believe, will go a long way in creating some of these, alleviating some of these pain points. The other thing is, when we talk about enterprise, are you truly an enterprise company? Are you truly enterprise first, or have you just taken a device that was made for video gaming or for social media and now are repackaging as an enterprise company? Those just don't work in terms of quality, in terms of the privacy, security, and the comfort for the end user. So being enterprise first is extremely important if you want to serve the enterprise market. And then when you talk about consumers, it's a similar ballgame where you come from a very different set of assets and a different genetic makeup.
Great. So before I tell you my answer, any IT professionals in the house? Anyone? Couple? So number one is, unfortunately, you have to embrace the difficult questions that have to get answered for true deployment, and forget that it's XR, AR, VR, forget what that is. What you're doing is you are implementing mobility. So embracing IT, thinking about things that are not the things you wake up in the morning about. Great partners out there like Arbor XR, shout out to them, and other MDMs. Got to be thinking about MDM, mobile device management. You have to be thinking about cybersecurity. If you're working in government, you've got to be thinking about authority to operate, compliance standards. These are the things that none of us as entrepreneurs probably wake up every day thinking, wow, I'm going to get my compliance on today. But the reality of the situation is that's where we need to start. We need to start thinking about the lowest common denominator of deployment, and it needs to be SKU-based solutions. So for example, being able to have hardware and software come together in a bundle, like Vishal just said, what happens if you need to purchase from three or four different vendors? How do you do that in one purchase order when a PO from a large company can take 4 to 6 months? Standardization and alignment with probably the most unfun topics, mobile device management, security, and treat this like a repeat with advancement from the deployment of mobility. Anybody who remembers when the mobile phone started, and start thinking that way when we wake up every day.
Thank you, Brian. So since Oppo is the most consumer-oriented company among the panelists, I'll talk from the consumer electronics perspective of view. So when we were building the Oppo MR Glass, we looked into commercialization opportunities, right? Then we went out to talk to developers. And then the developers, the first question they ask is, how much units you are going to ship? If we are telling them we don't know, we don't have a good estimation, then they say, hey, we are going to charge you a fee to just do the porting of their apps onto your system, right? That's not what's going on with the smartphones, right? We are a very successful smartphone company. What happens on Android phones is that you build a phone, all these Android apps can run on your phone immediately, right? Without much porting at all. So we were thinking, definitely lacks something, right, in the middle, where when we build a really good MR device, XR device, these applications should be running on that device from day one, right? We shouldn't go out really talk to 100, 200 developers to try to help them port their applications onto our platform. I think that's really not something we want to do. What we want to do is to do what we do best, is to build a beautiful device.
And it's a very good point and a segue to my next question, because I think, and we have a lot of developers here, by the way, everybody would ask the same question, what is my ROI? And it's very clear today that there is an opportunity cost for every activity or for every porting. We call it porting, it's a lot more than porting, because this is not just a mobile app. There's a lot of tuning that needs to happen, etc. So how you guys in each of your focused vertical, how can you convince these developers that, hey, just come and do it with the confidence that you will get your ROI, instead of you just asking me an NRE, unless you agree that the only way is just the NRE? And I'll start with you. Yeah.
So first, I think you have to have faith, right? You have to have faith in the metaverse, in XR, in overall. But I believe with a sort of for example, the spaces, right? With a common software platform, with different devices that supports this kind of platform, I believe there's going to be really a good future for the XR devices in general, right? We tend to think VR, as it's in current shape, sort of similar to a gaming console, right? So it has to have very specialized content, the games to go with these devices. But for MR, I think the possibility is endless. We tend to think MR can one day becoming the next computing platform, which is really similar to a tablet or to a laptop. Then I think it's only really up to the creativity of the developers to create new applications. And we are going to help them. For example, on our MR device, we put a heart rate sensor, right? We believe there's going to be someone who can think about how to utilize the sensor and build some really cool apps for fitness, for health in XR, right? That's our approach, is to provide the underlying hardware and software, and then we can allow the developers to unleash their creativity and the potential.
Great. So whenever you talk about ROI, there's different types of ROI, right? There's return on investment, there's return on time, there's return on pieces of equipment if you're the end user. So we really have to think about what's in it for the person that's engaging in it. So one thing I always think about in the space is we all walked in here. We walked in with 3 or 4 headset companies, all came into the room at the same time. We're not at a place yet where this has to be a zero-sum game where somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. We're all here to prop each other up and hopefully make each other successful. So ROI is actually complex. And one of the things that was interesting was how many proof of concepts that were done in my previous lifetime where the companies didn't even know what they were trying to manage or measure when they started. And you end up in purgatory. And so really have a clear understanding of what the use cases are and what they can be. The other opportunity, and I think it's matured a lot, that we're in the next phase of this where it has matured a lot. Companies really do have a strategy now. And that's why Spaces is so exciting, because it's giving you that baseline. The other thing is about IP and valuation. Very important concept here too for everybody in the room. As you think about the ecosystem, for DigiLens, we make waveguides, we have a platform called Argo, and we're going to make future headsets, right? However, there's so many different business opportunities for other companies to be able to come and build a platform, do a new invention, have something that's IP and valuation ready for you guys as developers and people. So we always say, whenever you go into different countries, like I spend a lot of time internationally, when we go in, we always want to embrace the students, we want to embrace the organizations of people that want to build. And the reason being is because when we create an ecosystem, we're creating jobs, we're creating opportunities, and frankly, we're all creating and advancing the space that we all love so much since we're all here at this event.
Yeah, and I think from a developer perspective, they're looking for 2 things that we try to provide. One is an open and flexible platform, and then the second is scale. So the first one, the open and flexible platform, people don't want to they don't want vendor lock-in, they don't want cloud lock-in, they don't want, you talked about IT systems, you want different kinds of ERP and CRM systems to work with the back end if you're running ServiceNow, et cetera. So you have to have an open and flexible ecosystem so that you can work from one device to the other. That's why we really welcome folks like Oppo getting on Snapdragon Spaces, where now this large ecosystem has yet another platform that they can monetize on, right? So the more the merrier in this case. The second is around scale. So Lenovo being a $70 billion company and with access to markets in more than 180 countries and a huge Salesforce system, we are the ones that take our solutions, our ISVs solutions and developer solutions to our end customers, right? As opposed to relying on them. I think for way too long in this industry, a lot of big players have relied on the developers and ISVs to kind of help them build scale. But I think you got to meet them in the middle, where you got to use your enterprise chops or your consumer chops or your retail access in different countries that you have to help them see the market and build scale there as well. So those introductions and that scale is very important.
No, exactly. So I want to switch the gear a little bit. We have about 7 minutes maybe left, and talk a little bit about the hardware. Okay, so I think we talked about the platforms, the scale, the security, all what we need to get to the market. But hardware itself, I can feel it in the eyes of a lot of developers. But really, it's not there. Can we talk a little bit about, because I want people to appreciate, I think, the difficulty that is associated with some of this hardware that we're building, and appreciate the progress that's been made. But I want you to talk about it from your experience, from, again, your focused segment. How do you see where you are today? And as your organization, how do you see progressing on that? And why do you want people here to continue following you guys? So I'm going to start with you, Brian, maybe.
So they always say hardware is hard. I always joke that I've been rejected by every venture capitalist on Sand Hill Road when I started out with RealWear, and we ended up raising $160 million. Before that, I was with a company that many of you know, Daiquiri, that couldn't scale the smart helmet, but had a lot of really amazing technology early on that ended up selling its IPs out some of the top companies. So the reason why I came to DigiLens was because when you look at hardware and the hardware creation, you have to look at a couple different things. One, you have to look at the stabilities of the company. So all 3 companies you see up here are very stable. One of our lead lead investors in our last round was Samsung, for example. No, people don't know DigiLens, so I'm trying to change the story so all of you guys actually know the company. You got investors like Samsung and Corning, Mitsubishi Chemical, Gore-Tex, that level of investment that's behind DigiLens. So you've got to look at the component side of what's happening and making sure that the supply chain can be supported so that you can make product. Imagine that moment if you wanted to get 1,000 devices, got to make sure they're there. If you got to get 100,000 devices, make sure they're there. So that's why DigiLens is special from our perspective, because we make the waveguides, we make the projector, we control the entire supply chain. We've recently launched Argo. Please come to our booth. As Nima Shams in the crowd said, it's down by the bathroom in the back. So, but come see us and please try the hardware out. You're going to see a device that's got a 48 megapixel camera in the front, which is unbelievable. You're going to see one of the world's smallest projectors. You're going to put on a device that is truly an industrial set, that is like a pair of glasses, that has 95% transparency to your eye, which has about 8% eye glow, and can totally change the game for where we're going in AR. So I'm very proud of the product and the product team that's put this together. And we're super excited to be partnered with Qualcomm and Qualcomm Spaces.
Yeah, and just to pick up on the hardware, the difficulty, and what I see in the future, right? In terms of connecting the dots into the future, we're seeing just some incredible innovation that's going on in this area when it comes to optics, when it comes to the chipsets and what Qualcomm is doing around its XR2 and the AR2 Plus chipset. What's going on with the devices now becoming tethered wireless, as well as being able to do split rendering over a 5G network. So all these technologies are going to really help us miniaturize these devices, make them cheaper, and increase the life cycle of these devices as well. So that's super exciting. And if you look at what's happening in some of these traditional markets, right? I mean, that's why this conference is so popular and so well attended. I mean, if you look at the smartphone market, it went down 30% year over year. If you look at what's happening in the PC and the IT hardware spend, that's definitely flattened out to like pre-COVID levels. So when it comes to innovation, when you say you just went to China, I was just there doing some supply chain tours. The R&D investment in many of these companies, the VC investment, is actually going towards XR technologies and not some of the previous technologies at all. So I think that's super exciting to make sure that the partners you're working with are invested in this space and are working with the right kind of supply chain partners to make sure that they're doing the best devices and the best platforms.
Since we are short on time, I'll just give a short story about how hard it is to making a XR device, right? So when we had this idea of building an MR device, it was like a little less than 2 years ago. It's still really quick, right? Within 20 months, we are able to create this beautiful device. But that's basically based on our years of R&D in ARs, right? We have done all-in-one ARs. We have done smartphone tethered AR, smart glasses, right? All this learning comes into this MR glass. Still, our testing team complain a lot, right? Because they say, hey, why your 6 door freezes? Why you lost tracking? They run monkey test our device, and then it always fails because it is really a rigorous testing on the smartphones, right? That tells you how mature the smartphone devices are. They can sustain all these crazy monkey tests, but with XR, we are not able to meet all these standards. That's basically, this is a lesson for me, right? This is really difficult. I think we still have a long way to go before we can really make some really beautiful devices.
Yeah, no, there is, we always said this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, but I think it's very important to realize that we can do a ton of things today. Let's get out of the chicken and egg. I want to get a chance to 1 or 2 questions from the audience, if any. If not, I would like to ask one last question for each of you. Just last thought you want to leave with the audience here. That know what XR is, that know what is a developer developing an app is, what is the difficulty of the hardware. Again, just in your area again of focus, what is it that you want to let them go with and think about, if anything at all?
This is what I tell my customers. A wait and watch approach is the same thing as death in this space because this industry is moving so fast. It'll take us a few years to get things right, but you got to get invested now. You got to learn now. You got to iterate now, iterate fast, and learn quickly from your mistakes. So I think the time to invest is now. It was like 5 years ago, but if you haven't done that yet, you should do it.
I think just think about how we do work, right? So how do you do work and how do people in the real world do work? You know, there's a such thing as a deskless worker and a desk worker, right? Nima Shams is my colleague is gonna speak more on this later. So think about how we do work and how do we integrate and actually add value back to the people that are doing work, whether that be building an app or building a game or playing a game. It's all about value creation. And we need to think about what's in it for the people that are consuming as well as creating in the space and get that right.
Yeah, I think I have a simple message for developers out there. I think right now is the time, right? The future is really bright for MR and the XR in general. And use your imagination and create some beautiful apps. Now is the time, and we are here to help with our cutting-edge hardware and the software. We can help.
No, thank you so much, guys. I think we are an extra 12 seconds. Wow. Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate your time. I know it's very short, and we tried to touch on few subjects as quick as we could, but appreciate the panelists here and for your insights as well. I wish you guys a marvelous rest of the day and an amazing show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.